Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I implement Montessori in my household with my 9-month-old. If you're not familiar with what Montessori is, it's basically an education and philosophy developed by an Italian doctor named Marie Montessori. Now, it's not anything new. It's been around for over 100 years and it's been embraced worldwide by schools everywhere. But the thing about Montessori is that it's not only for schools. You can implement Montessori ideas and principles in your own house. Dr. Montessori wholeheartedly believed that education starts at birth, which is why I've been trying to implement Montessori right from the start as soon as I had my daughter 9 months ago. Dr. Montessori emphasized that education is not about just filling your child with facts, but it's about cultivating their natural aptitude and desire to learn. And because of that, I absolutely love the idea and I love the principles behind Montessori, which is why I try to implement them and will continue implementing them as my daughter grows. So the first way that I implement Montessori in my household is by setting up a prepared environment, which is basically creating yes spaces for your kids to be able to play freely and be able to move around and not hear no, don't touch that, or no, don't do that, wherever they are. And it doesn't have to be a big space. For me, I basically just move my coffee table off to the side, blocking the fireplace, and I have basically my sitting area as her guest space where she can play and move around freely, and I don't have to keep trying to keep tabs on her or trying to tell her no, don't touch that, or no, don't go there, or no, don't do this. So that's what creating a yes space is. Another way that I've helped create a yes space for my daughter is by having a toy shelf, which is where she is right now playing. Having a toy shelf is actually one of Montessori's way of setting up your environment. So instead of having a toy box with a bunch of toys being thrown in there where the child has to reach in there and try to dig in there and try to reach for the toy that they want, having a nice shelf that's beautifully set up for your child to look at is not only pleasing to the eye, but it's also easy for them to access their toys and which toys they want to play with. Another thing about toy shelves is that they're beautifully displayed with baskets and trays where the toys are in each basket and each tray where the child can easily take it off and put it back on. I'm going to have a whole separate video of my toy shelf and my rotation of toys and all of that in a separate video, so just keep an eye out for that. Another way that I implement Montessori, and I think this is huge, is just speaking to my daughter in a respectful manner. And I know that she's a baby and I know that she can't really speak back to me yet, but trust me when I tell you, babies are smarter than we think and they know what we're saying to them. They may not be able to reply back or they may not have the ability to talk yet, but trust me when I tell you that they are absorbing language even if they can't respond back yet. So not only do I speak to her respectfully, but also communication in general is so important. And some of the ways that you can go ahead and communicate with your baby is basically by asking them questions. Even if they can't respond yet, you can just say, oh, what's that over there? Is that your favorite toy? Is that Mr. Rattle? One of our toys is named Mr. Rattle. Oh, is this Mr. Rattle? You can also be outside and you can show them details of things like, wow, look at that, look at this, the color of the leaf, or look at the snow on the sidewalk, or anything like that, just pointing out things to them. It could be as simple as those examples that I just gave you. Another way, and I think this is super important, is by reading books. I started reading books to my daughter when she was literally a newborn. You can start reading books to them at any given time. And not only does it allow you to have that one-on-one time with them, but it also allows them to hear rich language that they may not necessarily hear on a daily basis. My daughter absolutely loves books. She gets so excited and her face lights up, and she obviously doesn't know how to speak yet, but she loves looking at the pictures and she loves lifting up the flaps that we have in some of her books, and she loves looking at the different animals that she doesn't get to see in our day-to-day lives. So reading books to them, I think personally, is crucial. Now, another way that I implement Montessori, and this is huge in Montessori in general, this principle of following your child's lead. And following your child's lead is basically just you being an observer, sitting back and watching what your child is interested in and what they're not interested in, what they like to do and what they don't like to do. And this way, you can set up your environment according to your observations. So if they don't like necessarily playing with sensory balls anymore, you can go ahead and maybe take those out and replace it with something else. And if they love reading books like my daughter does, you can have some books readily available for you to grab to read to your daughter or your son. Another way that I implement Montessori is supporting independent play. As parents, we have this natural, at least I do, where I have this natural desire to always want to butt in and interfere and help as soon as I see her struggling doing a toy that, putting a ring on the stick or struggling to, reach something. if they're not crying and if they're not looking at you or asking you for help, don't interfere. Just be there and simply observe, and just be there if they need you, but don't interfere with everything that they do. Support independent play, because trust me, down the line, I'm sure we're gonna love that we implemented this and that they were able to learn how to play independently without you always having to be there. And lastly, one of the ways that I implement Montessori, which is technically not Montessori, but it does help build independence, which is huge for Montessori principles, is independence, is following the baby-led weaning method of eating solid foods. Now, when my daughter was 6 months old, she started eating solid foods, and rather than feeding her purees, I followed the baby-led weaning method, which is basically when you offer your baby finger foods or cut-up foods that you can give to your child to nibble on and eat and explore and have some sensory play, rather than you spoon feeding them any purees. Now, I did do a mixture of both in the beginning, just because she did not want to touch food for some reason. And for a long while, actually, she was not touching any food. I don't know what it was. She didn't like the texture of food. So it took us a few weeks to get to that point where she started showing interest in playing with food and touching it. But until then, I kept exposing her to the idea of baby-led weaning, and now she eats pretty independently and she eats whatever we eat. One of the principles of Montessori is raising independent, capable children. I can do a whole separate video of baby-led weaning if you guys are interested in that. I have tons of videos of my daughter when she first started eating solids with the baby-led weaning method. So those are just some ways out of the many, many, many ways that we can implement Montessori in our homes. Again, Montessori is not just for the classroom. You can start implementing it from day one as soon as you have your baby. And I have been trying my best to do so, and just being an observer and being her guide, and just being able to create yes spaces and being able to allow her to explore freely. And hopefully as she grows older, I can start implementing more and more things. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. It's not that hard. Don't be intimidated. Don't think that Montessori is all about just beautiful environments that has beautiful toys and you have to go out and buy all these expensive things. It's really just using what you have. It's not that hard, and it's not that intimidating. I know when I first started reading upon Montessori, I was extremely intimidated and I did not want to. Hi. And I know that I was really scared that I wasn't gonna do it right or anything like that, but it's not like that at all. If you're interested in learning more about Montessori, I can link some resources down below in the description box. But one of the things that I do want to talk about that I do have on hand here is this book right here. And it's called The Montessori Toddler. And it has so much information inside of it. It just gives you history of Dr. Montessori herself. It gives you details of what Montessori is, and it gives you examples of how to set up your house to make it more Montessori friendly as well. So this is an amazing resource. I would say this is like the bread and butter of how I got all of my information of what Montessori is and how to implement it in my house. But yeah, totally recommend this book. I've read it from cover to cover, and I still refer back to it from time to time. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I hope this was helpful. I'm no expert by all means in Montessori. I am learning as I go. This is my first child, so I've never done this before, but I have been reading and watching so many videos on YouTube about Montessori, and I just love the idea and the philosophy behind it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I gotta go put this one to sleep. I think she's getting a little sleepy. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. See you in my next one. Bye.